Hi, my name is Donna and welcome to my sewing journey. Today, let's make a cute little zipper tote. I have two examples here, one made with a flower print, and this tote is a little different because we're going to make a zipper top to it, and we're going to make a pocket on the inside, a little zipper pocket on the inside. So we have a cute little bag. But we're going to add a little bit more to ours, and see, this is the same style. The only difference is I added a little pocket to the front, and that's what we're going to do today, is make a cute little zipper tote with a zipper pocket on the inside and a little pocket on the outside. Okay, let's go over the materials that we're going to need to make this cute little tote. I'm using Nightmare Before Christmas fabric for my patterned fabric for my tote, just because it's my daughter's favorite and we're making her a little surprise. If you're using a pattern fabric that has a vertical pattern that matters, you want to make sure that when you're cutting it, that the lengthwise, the height here is going to be 7 3/4. This is the direction that your fabric needs to be when you cut it. So you're going to need 2 of these. This is the outer shell of the bag, and you're going to need 2 of these 13 3/4 inches by 7 3/4 inches. I already went ahead and put the interfacing on the back of all of my fabrics. They are the same size as the fabric cuts, so you can make those cuts the same. I used a very lightweight interfacing on all of the fabric because some of them are going to be doubled up, and we don't really need it to be super stiff, just need a little structure. This bottom piece, this is my bottom. I use canvas for it, or you can use like a twill canvas. You want something just a little stiffer. You just want something to take that wear and tear, even a vinyl if you like. This is 13 3/4 by 9 3/4. You only need one of those. The outer pocket, you have a couple options of making this outer pocket. Mine is, this is 6 inches across and 7 inches in height. You can also do one piece, and that's because I stitched a 1/4 inch seam on the top and bottom. You can also do one piece that you fold over, and you can do that one 6 inches by 13 inches. And you're just going to fold it over, put interfacing only on 1/2 of it, and then you're going to top stitch the top just to hold that pocket top edge in place. This bottom edge is going to be hidden in the seam. The next one, you're going to need lining pieces. My lining pieces, you're going to need 2, 13 3/4 by 11 3/8. And then you're going to need, for the interior pocket, you're going to need one. This is to make the zipper pocket on the inside. This is going to be 8 5/8 in width, and it's going to be 14 1/8 in length. And again, you interface everything. This one is a really, really light piece of interfacing because this is an interior pocket, but you'll see why that's important when we make the zipper pocket with this. We're also going to need, for the zipper top, we're going to need 2 pieces 13 3/4 by 1 1/2. On this one, the only difference with this one is the interface is going to be 13 inches by 1 inches. We'll need 2 of those. You're going to need the zipper for the interior pocket, and I have an 8-inch zipper here that is already has a zipper top, stops on it, and this is a number 3 zipper. It's just a regular zipper. And then I use, for the very top zipper, this is a number 5 zipper by the yard, and I chose purple to go with the bag. I also put a purple zipper pull on it. But these tabs are 1 1/2 by 1 1/2, and I folded them half and then folded them in half on inside themselves, so it's like double bias tape. And I put a zipper tab on each end. And now let's go make our project. We're going to start with the outer shell of the bag, and I've taken the one piece and I've folded it in half. And this particular piece is the one that I have Jack Skellington is centered. So this is the side that's not going to have the pocket. So I fold it in half so that way I know where my center is. And after I have my center, I'm going to mark 2 1/2 inches over from the center mark in a couple places. Okay. I'm going to do that on both sides. So you just flip it over, and again from the center, 2.5 in a few places. And then you're going to open it up. And I already marked here. You can see my fold line, but I marked here a little spot just to show me. From the top, where these 2.5 inch lines down are, I'm going to measure down 1.5 inches and make a mark somewhere off to the side that I'll be able to see while I'm sewing. You don't want it to be right on top of it, but at least about 3/4 inch away from where your lines are. You want to be able to see that when you're sewing. I might not be able to see that, it blends in there. So I'll do it on this side too. Just want to make sure I can see that when I'm sewing. And you'll see why. Okay. So then what you're going to do, this is, I'm showing you this one first because you're not putting the pocket on here. You're going to take your handles, and you want to make sure, take one of your handles. You want to make sure that when you lay it down, that it's not twisted. So when you lay this down and you go around the top, you want to make sure that the top is not twisted. You're going to take both sides of this handle, and on that 2.5 inch mark, you're going to line it up along those marks from bottom all the way to the top. So you want to guide it onto those. And I use pins for this just because I can sew around this on my sewing machine. And on the other side, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go to the inside of that. Correct myself. The lines are on the inside of the handle. So you're going to take the handle and bring it all the way up and line them up to the inside. And the mark, the reason I have that mark on there is I'm going to sew from one end up. When I get to my mark, I'm going to go across here and I'm going to come back down. And I'm going to do that on both sides. When I'm up here, I'm going to go back and reinforce it. I'm going to come across here, come down, make a box, and this will be 1/2 inch in height. And then I'm going to go corner to corner and make a little X. And the reason I want to do that is just to reinforce the top of where that is. But you want this from the top of the fabric to where your box start. The top of the box is still a 1.5. So that's why you mark 1.5. Now to do the same thing, you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And this one I'm going to show you how we're going to add the pocket. Still going to have the same markings. 2.5. Flip it over, same thing, 2.5 in a couple places. I'm still going to mark down 1.5 so I know where to stop my sewing to make my box. And for this one, we're going to take our outer pocket. We're going to lay that pocket on here, and I'm going to have the center of this match that center there, and I'm going to line the bottom of the pocket with the bottom of the fabric. You want to make sure those centers are matched, and then we're going to do the same thing with the strap, again making sure we don't get twisted up. And so when you put this over top, that mark, I usually mark the pocket as well. I forgot to mark the pocket from the center mark. There we go. All right, so from the center mark, you're going to go keep that to the inside, keep this one to the inside. You're going to, again, line it up at the bottom. And pin that in place. I also like to put one pin in the middle of my pocket just to keep it from going anywhere. That's optional. You don't have to do that, but I do that just so that it doesn't go anywhere. And you're going to pin both sides. And we're going to sew it the same way. Make sure that our strap is not twisted. And line it up on those marks. My pins get magnetized because I have them on a magnet all the time. There we go. And line that one up. Okay, same thing as on the other side. You're going to stitch up across at that line and come down. And if you did it the same way, your top of your pocket should be somewhere about the same as that mark. And you're going to make the little box, make it a 1/2 inch box with the crisscross, just on the same as the other side. So I'm going to go sew mine, you sew yours, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, now that you have your handles attached, if you look closely, hopefully this shows up on the video, you can see where I have an X here. I can show you on the back side. Okay, you have that, and then you have the one with the pocket. And what you're going to do is you're going to, pretty side to pretty side, you're going to match this is the bottom, this is the canvas. You're going to match those seams. And you're going to do it on both sides. And it's a 3/8 inch seam. So sew yours, so I'll sew mine, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, I've sewn both of my bottoms to the sides. I just want to show you on the inside here, I pressed the seam down, and then I did a top stitch 1/8 across on both sides. On both sides here. Now what we're going to do is fold the bag in half. And we're just going to stitch both side seams 3/8 of an inch. I'll meet you right back here and show you how I do the box bottom. Okay, I sewed both side seams. And you want to lay it flat. And I'm going to show you what I mark up from the bottom. I mark up, I use my little gauge here. And I have a 1 5/8, so I mark up 1 5/8 from the bottom and 2 inches from the side. I'm going to do that on both sides. Remember, it's 1 5/8 up, 2 inches over. I'm going to clip those. Then I'm going to pull it like this, and I'm going to sew that box corner after I clip it. Okay, I finished my box corners. I pressed the seam open when I stitched it, and you did that on both sides. You're just going to turn this right side out, the whole thing. Push out your corners with your fingers. Don't use scissors. You can use a tool if you think you need it. This side's not that hard. And then your outside is now ready for the next step. So we're going to set this aside, and now we're going to work on the inside. And what you're going to need is you're going to need one piece of the lining. And I've already took the liberty of marking the center and putting 2 dots on it. And then you're going to need the one that I told you was for the pocket that was 8 5/8 by 14 1/8. And you're going to line these 2 centers up. But first, you're going to measure down 1 1/8 from the top. And that's where you're going to line up the center of the zipper pocket with the center of the lining. Oh, right sides together, my bad. Glad I realized that before we sewed. Okay, so you're going to line that center up in 1/8 down. And just to keep it from sliding, I'm going to pin 2 pins kind of a good ways out of the way, but still on each side to hold this in place for the next step. And I have a zipper marking tool. If you don't have this, you certainly could do this without it. You're just going to make different measurements. And we're going to start out by making from the top, measuring down 2 inches and 1/4 from the top raw edge of the side. From the side. I'm going to measure down 2 1/4 inches. I'm going to do that in a couple places. Then I'm going to take my tool. Kind of hard to see. This tool has different markings on it for different sizes. This is a 3/8. You see that? 3/8. This is for a 1/2 inch zipper. We're going to use the 3/8. And what you're going to do is I'm going to place this center mark there. And if you see on each side it has numbers, I'm going to mark it out to the 7-inch on each side. If you don't have this tool, what you're going to do is you're going to draw you measure down 2 1/4 inches and mark that. And you're going to go 3 1/2 inches to each side from center. You're going to draw that. And then you're going to drop down 3/8 of an inch. Do a vertical line 3/8 of an inch. And then draw another one. Just like that. 3/8 from this line. So if I didn't have this tool, I would use my ruler and draw a line that was 2 1/4 inches from the top. And then from that line, 3/8 and then down. And then you're going to draw another line in the center. This is just your cutting line. This doesn't have to be perfect. The outer edge is more important. But this line is where we're going to cut to turn it after we make our stitch. So we're going to stitch along this line on the outside of this box. And you want to make sure you have good sharp corners when you make those turns, because that's going to make a difference when you go to sew the zipper. So I'm going to pin this here just to hold it in place while I'm sewing so this doesn't move, and I'm going to sew this, and we'll be right back here. Okay, I've stitched around the edge of my box, and I just want to point out, I don't start my stitching at the corner. I start over a little bit. That way when I back tack and I go back and forth a couple of times, it's not on a corner. So you see how we have nice crisp corners on both sides. And I stitch just, and those 2 lines are 3/8 apart. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this center. I'm going to use my rotary tool, but you can use scissors. And I'm going to start in the middle and go to the other side and stop short. So I went here to here, and I'm going to use scissors to do the rest. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I drew see the little arrow, and I'm going to clip to the corners. I'm going to make that a little shorter. I'm going to clip it to the corner. And I'm going to put the edge of the zipper, the scissors, the tip of the scissors just before the stitches, because you don't want to cut through the stitches. But you want to cut all the way up to that line. I'm going to do the same thing here. And repeat it on the other side. Make sure you don't cut through your stitches or you'll have to redo it. That's from experience. Okay, once you have it clipped, then you're going to take all of your pocket and push it to the other side. And you're going to flatten this. So you'll have the short end on the short side, the long end going to the bottom. Looks something like this. And then I tug on the corners. Tug on the corners. And then I'm going to flatten it with my fingers first so that I can match up that corner seam and make it nice and flat. And this is where the interfacing is helpful because it keeps the fabric stabilized and stiff enough that you can press it and I can turn it over, do it again, and then I'm going to use my iron and press this open. Okay, now you can see how the interfacing, see how I made it nice and stiff and it lays nice and flat. And the reason you want that is so that when you go to sew your zipper in, you'll have a nice even line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the zipper, put it on, I'm going to open it up a little bit, but I'm going to center the zipper on the back side, zipper part on face down, and that way I can see where it goes. And I'm going to center it so that the stops are on either side of the opening. I'm going to center it in there, and I just center it in place, pin it, flip it over, and I'll have it centered here. Let's see if you can see that. I'm going to center it like this. And then I'm going to top stitch all the way around with this centered. I'm going to top stitch right here 1/8 all the way around. And when I'm on this side, I'll have the zipper closed all the way up to here, and then I'll just move it out of the way to do this. I will start here in the center and go down and around. Then I'll move the zipper out of the way, and I'll finish here. And then my back tacking will all be, it won't be on the end. It'll be in the center, so that I'll have nice crisp turns. And then also on each end, it'll have when I'm finished, the zipper tab, the stops will be on the other side of where I've stitched, and I'll be able to trim that on either side. I'll be able to trim these when I'm done. So you go sew yours, I'll go sew mine, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, now that we have the zipper in, we finished that, we're going to flip it over, and we're going to match up you're going to fold it in half and match up the two raw edges, the bottom to the top, and the side seams. Then I'm going to stitch. I'm going to stitch all the way around here. To do that, to make it easier, I fold my fabric like this, and I just use a pin just temporarily to kind of hold that out of the way so that I can stitch all the way around without accidentally getting the lining caught in it. So I'll be actually stitching just like this. I'll go stitch mine, you stitch yours, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, now that we're finished, it looks like this on the back side, and on the front side, we just have a zipper pocket. And now we're going to treat this just like it was the other lining, and we're going to treat them the same. what we're now going to do is install the top zipper, but instead of using the outer shell, we are going to use the strips that we made, because these strips are going to be the top where to make it recessed. So this is going to be as if this is the outer, and the lining is still going to be the lining. I like both of my zippers to zip to the same side. So when it's going to be zipped, it'll be on this side. And since this is the way it's going to be sitting, face up, you want the lining face up, the zipper face up, so the zipper pulls up, and you're going to center that. Then you're going to take one of your strips and right side down, you're going to sandwich that in there, and then we're going to stitch along there. Then we'll open it up and top stitch, and then repeat it on the other side. I'm going to do this side first and show you what it looks like when it's finished, and then I'll show you the other side. Okay, here's the finished side, the one side. This is the lining side. Flip it over, and this is the other side. And this is with this strip, and when you pull it up, I press it away from the zipper, and then I top stitched it, as you can see here, so that it's pressed away. So that's what it'll look like on the bag. And now I'm going to go ahead and put the other lining together, the other strip, and stitch this all together, top stitch it, and then get it ready to make the bag. Okay, now that I finished the top, I put right sides together, and I pinned the lining together, and I put clips at the point where the seams meet, so that just to make it hold those in place so it's a little bit stronger. You can use a pin, you can use a clip. For that, I just like to use a clip for that. I pinned this, and I put a pin lengthwise here, because I'm going to sew here, and I'm going to sew around the rest of the way after I make my box corners. So I'm going to stitch, stitch, and stitch. But first I'll make the box corners, and then I'll cut those out, and then I'll sew those. So on the lining on the inside, since there's no seams already sewn, we're going to do a 2x2 box on each corner that we're going to cut out. So that when we sew, after I cut this out, I'm going to sew all the way to here. I'm going to sew the entire bottom, and then on this side I'm going to sew up here, including the top strips. You're going to do a 3/8 inch seam, and if you did it correctly, you should not hit the zipper when you sew it. You're going to sew here, stop here, leave a gap, and then you're going to sew here down to the last opening, the end of the opening, and then afterwards you're going to sew those box corners so that you're ready to put the shell and the lining together. So I'm going to clip these, stitch here to here on this side, and then here to here, stitch this whole side, and then stitch this bottom, and then I'm going to stitch the box corners, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I finished sewing the side seams. I folded it over and pressed both sides of the seam with the opening, just so that it'll make it a little bit easier when I go to, there we go. I pressed it, so just that way it'll make it a little bit easier when I go to top stitch it later. So the next step is open your zipper all the way up, and you're going to take your outer shell and you're going to put it inside your lining. See if I can't show you this. So you're going to take this, push the handles down, and you're going to put everything inside of this bag. Now, I like to make sure that this pocket is on the opposite side of my inside pocket. So when I push it in there, I make sure that this pocket is on away from that inside pocket. Push that all in there, and then you want the 1.5 inch strip up, and you're matching that 1.5 inch strip to the top of your outer shell. You're going to start with lining up your 2 side seams. You want to line those up, pin or clip it, and match the other side same way. Again, making sure that those handles are down in there, so you don't want to accidentally sew them into it. You're going to match up this seam to this one. Pin or clip this side. The same as the other. And then you're going to finish pinning all the way around the top. I'm going to pin all this all the way around. Just pin it in place or clip it, whichever you prefer. And then after I'm done, I'm going to pin mine. But after I'm done pinning it, I'm with a 3/8 seam, I'm going to sew all the way around the top. So I'm going to finish pinning it, sew it, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, I sewed the top all the way around. I'm just going to reach in and pull it apart like this. Find my opening, reach down in there, turn it. Oops, sorry about that. And then the lining will come through. Reach down and push those corners out again. I just use my fingers on this. And I'm going to bring this bag up like this. And then I'm going to stitch here, push the lining in, and then I'm going to show you how to stitch this so that this lip stays up. Meet you back here. Okay, now that we've got it turned right side out, we've top stitched that, we pushed the lining down in. You want to push your zipper corners down. You want to push both of them down. Right after you turn it, it'll be up like this. You just take that and push it down. Fold it so that it's now down in there. And you push this lining down. And as you push the lining down, it should pop up the seam that you made between the 1.5 inch strip and the outer. What I like to do to get that to be a nice flat, and the reason that I did it, I had a little gap in the interfacing, is because the outer has interfacing all the way to the seam and this side doesn't, this 1.5 doesn't. So when you push it like this and roll it, you should be able to get it to that point. And I just double check on the lining and make sure it's out of the way so that you get that seam at the very top. And then I clip it, and I'm just going to go around the whole way doing that so that the seam is at the top. And then when I'm done clipping all the way around, I'm going to top stitch 1/8 all the way around, and then I'll be finished my bag, and I'll show you the final result. Okay, here we have the finished product. Cute little tote bag with the pocket in the front, and you can see that my efforts to center that worked out pretty well. Zipper, recessed zipper, you open it up, and then you have your pocket on the inside. That's a zipper pocket. If I can find the zipper. There we go. There we go. And the possibilities with this type of bag are absolutely endless. You could do it with so many different kinds of fabric. Like I have this fabric here with the canvas bottom, but you could copy that on the bottom. You could use vinyl, anything you want. You could make this bag larger by increasing the sides and the top. You could make it smaller. You can completely customize this bag to whatever you need. You can put pockets on the inside, additional pockets on the inside that are without a zipper, just by putting an extra piece of fabric in there, folding it over and stitching it. I mean, you could have 2 pockets on the other side of the lining. So many possibilities. Anyway, be creative, make these wonderful bags. And if you had fun making this bag with me, follow me and subscribe to me for more, and we'll make other projects together. Have fun sewing today.